Heyo, thought I'd make a quick video today on React error boundaries. Error boundaries have been out for a while. It's nothing new, but just in the off chance that you don't know about them or aren't quite sure how they work, maybe this video will be of help to you. There actually are some other changes too. So even if you are already familiar with them, if it's been a little bit since you last really made one, you might actually learn something new today. All right, so here I have a code sandbox, just have a basically a default boilerplate React app, but I've removed some of the junk. I still got some of the other junk up here, but anyway. All right, so we have an H1 here, and everything is cool. We're going to first off make a new component that will throw an error. How about that? Let's call it boom because that sounds fun. And then what would we do here? Let's just like have some data. We'll say foo is bar. Actually, let's be cooler than that. Come on, that's lame. Let's say muscles is big, and because we're React developers, so we have big muscles, right? So let's do an H1 here, and we'll just say data.muscles. And yeah, muscles. Great. All right. And we'll render boom there. We save. It's going to refresh. And big muscles. Cool. So everything's fine. Everything is awesome. Now, what about when the data is all of a sudden bad? So what if there is nothing here? Muscles is not defined, right? Data.muscles. Which, yeah, our linter is telling us this. This is a contrived example, but we just broke our application. Like, that's kind of lame. What if we have, I mean, this is just, one level deep in the tree, but what if we have a real application here and we got some bad data in one component and we just brought down the entire app? Like, that's kind of a crappy user experience, right? So let's talk about this for a second. React has a solution for this. It's called error boundaries. What error boundaries are basically catch blocks for components. So you think of it just like you would in a regular JavaScript try catch, but it's a catch block for a component instead of just a mere error. What an error boundary allows you to do is detect the error, handle the error, maybe log it off to a service or something like that, like Sentry or Bugsnag or whatever you use, and then render a fallback UI, or at the minimum render null or something, render something, and kind of handle the error so that the error doesn't bubble up the tree. Because the way it works is if a JavaScript error is thrown in any part of your tree, any part of your component tree, the error the error will bubble up until it finds the nearest error boundary that actually handles it. And if it doesn't find one, i.e. you don't have one in your app, or there is no path to get to it from where the error occurred, then it will eventually reach the top level of your app, and React will just break. It will decide to destroy the entire tree because it's React. At least the React team, they debated this, but they found that it's probably better to just unmount the entire tree than to have a corrupted state, which I would agree with that, because like their example in the docs is if you are in Facebook Messenger or you're trying to send money and all of a sudden you have corrupted state in the UI, you could end up sending the wrong amount or sending the message to the wrong person or something like that. So it's kind of a big deal. So let's handle this. So what actually makes an error boundary? First off, all the fancy hook people are going to be disappointed because it's a class component, or it has to be a class component in order to make an error boundary. I guess backing up there, an error boundary itself is a component. All that constitutes an error boundary is any component that implements one of two of these lifecycle methods. You have get derived state from error, and you have component did catch. Both of those are used for separate things, which we're about to go over. But if one of those is found in a component, as a lifecycle method implemented in a component, then that component is an error boundary. So we can call this whatever we want. We can call it error boundary, which is what a lot of teams do. And a lot of times, even the React docs themselves like say to just use one, to just like in practice, you will probably make one and just reuse it across the app. I don't really know if that's such a great idea. I mean, unless like you're dynamically injecting the fallback component, I just think that's pretty poor UX. But that's a video for another topic or video for another day. Wow. Okay. So class error boundary. How about we just call it error boundary, or we'll call it bomb squad because that's more fun. All right. And this is going to extend the regular old React component. Wow. Haven't written a class component in a while. All right. So first thing we're going to need is I guess a constructor. All right, and we'll call super, all the nice boilerplate. And then we'll say this.state equals has error false, because we don't have an error right now. All right, so next up, we want to actually detect when we have an error, so we can change the state to has error true and actually do something, render a fallback UI of some sort. So we'll actually implement get derived state from error. If you haven't seen this before, this is actually, I don't remember when this was actually introduced, but used to you would do basically handle your fallback UI and your logging of the error to some service like Sentry. You would do that just in component did catch, but the React team has actually said that method of doing things of rendering a fallback UI from component did catch is actually going to be deprecated in the future. So if you want to go ahead and future-proof your apps, go ahead and change the has error state of your error boundaries with get derived state from error instead of the old component did catch. Component did catch will still be around, but it's only going to be used for like side effects, like logging to a service. So get derived state from error. This is actually a static method. Get derived state from error, and then we'll say if let's see, I don't know. Well, actually no. We obviously if this gets thrown, we have an error, so we don't have to do this. So we'll just return the state of has error true. All right, and next. We want to log this somewhere that this error occurred so that so we can get paged at 2 a.m. to go fix the error because we love that. So we're going to say component did catch, and we have the error, and we'll just say Sentry or whatever it is, Sentry.log error, whatever it is. Actually, I think this is error and info. So you're going to get like info dot component. What is it? Component stack. If you want to get the stack trace. Anyway, this is where you log to a service, so you can get it on your Jira board. Next up, you actually need to render something. So if this.state has error, we're going to, I don't know, in this case, we'll just return an H1 of error call. This is a terrible UX, but we're just learning what error boundary is here. I'll do another video on how to actually do good UX on this. Actually, I already have a talk on this on YouTube if you search for fault tolerance in React. But I'll do a separate screencast at some point and talk more about the UX side of this. Otherwise, if we don't have an error, we're just going to return the children. All right, so now we have an error boundary here. Now over here, we can wrap this guy in an error boundary. All right, when we hit save, now we're in development mode, so yeah, we're still gonna get this like, we called it bomb squad. Let's see, bomb squad. All right, now we're in development mode, so we still get this like overlay with the stack trace here, but in production, this is really what we see: error caught. All right, so an error was thrown. Now, if I were to just go back to muscles equals big, then you have big muscles. But as soon as we get back data in this component, it doesn't exist, so error caught. All right, and this, if this was actually implemented, we would have logged to a service just then. Let's see, what else can we do here? And just to show you the benefits of this, like if we have, h2, I'm another component, and then we have like a div here, and I'm another component. Those two components, like the rest of the tree, still gets to run. It doesn't get unmounted and destroyed. It's a better user experience. We can just have a fallback for the piece of the UI that broke, and all the other pieces that that we want to continue running, they can just continue being interactive for the user. So there are a few caveats to error boundaries. You won't use these for things like event handlers. For those, event handlers don't really affect. I guess there's not a chance for an event handler to corrupt your app state, and so you can just use a regular old try catch there. But anything that happens in re-rendering or in the initial render or in a lifecycle method, things like that, if an error occurs in any of those are the kinds of errors that error boundaries are made for, to handle errors that could potentially corrupt your app state. I'll do some more videos on these. If there's a specific piece that doesn't make sense or that you want to know more about, let me know. But for now, I think that'll do it. You should use error boundaries if you don't already. And stay tuned for some more videos on maybe more of the UX side of actually implementing these in practice.